Swastiastu. Hi everyone, welcome to my video. So in this video, I would like to bring the material about article as my final test assignment from the subject Advanced Speaking. So before that, I will introduce myself first. My name is Ciptarini. I am the student of English Language Education Department in my 4th semester. So first, let me show you about the title of the article that I will bring today. So the title of the article is Incorporating Local Culture in English Teaching Material for Undergraduate Students. The writer of this article is I Gusti Ngurah Agung Wijaya Mahardika. And then first, I would like to discuss about the background of the study in the introductions. So the teaching materials plays a vital role in the teaching learning process. In case of improving the students' achievement and motivations in learning, the materials need to be more creative, fun, and easy to understand. A good teaching material will decide the results of the study. In case of facilitate the students' need in learning, teachers often to create their own materials that will be provide enjoyment for the students while the teaching learning process. The method used were through questionnaire, observation, and interview. The author conduct the study as a research development study. The consideration of the good materials will be allowed both students and teachers to understand the study and more enjoy while teaching learning process. And then the second one is about the discussion. So the subject of the study were 82 students of the first semester of Hinduism Education Department from A1 class and Hinduism Education Department at B1 class at the Denpasar campus. The study using 4 phases of development. There are the first one, blueprint phase. The second one is draft writing phase. The third one is draft testing phase. And then the last is final production phase. And then I will discuss about the first method that used is the blueprint phase. The blueprint phase aims at observing the teaching learning process and the existing material to identify the weaknesses of the existing material. The weaknesses of the existing materials as well as the findings of the observations was then used as the basis of writing the blueprint for the new material. The new material was written by observing the blueprint and then referred to the expert on English teaching and religious educations to be reviewed. And then the blueprint phase. The blueprint phase and then I would like to discuss about the weakness of the blueprint phase. The first one is the first weakness was the topic of the materials which was considered to be too foreign by the students. There were 5 reading texts and the content of the text were considered to be too advanced for the students' level. And the second one was that the level of difficulty, 88% of the students considered the existing material to be very difficult. It was found that the reading texts were too long, used advanced level of diction, and used numerous vocabulary from foreign language, notably Sanskrit. And then the third one is caused by the layout and presentation of the material. The students considered the material as boring since the material relied heavily on structural exercises and little else. Furthermore, the material was printed in black and white with very little pictures. To overcome the weaknesses of the existing material, the researcher developed the material based on the needs and the criticism from the student. To do this, the researchers decided to use material which was culturally familiar for the students. Learning a language also means learning a culture. Culture is so intertwined with language that in order to be able to use in language correctly and accurately, one must also understand the culture of said language. The improvement started with the reading text. In order to provide the students with culturally familiar reading text, which will reduce the sense of foreignness, the researchers decided to use simple reading text taken from various sources. The texts were selected based on their cultural familiarity with the student. There were 8 texts selected for the 8 chapters of the course material. The texts were: the first one, The Gods of Balinese Hinduism. The second one is Balinese Offerings. The third one is Besakeh Temple. The fourth is Traditional Tooth Filling Ceremony in Bali. The fifth is the Sacred Mount Agung. The sixth is Balinese Marriage. The seventh is Galungan and Kuningan, and then last is Nyepi. All these texts discuss the aspects of Hinduism and the life of Hindus in Bali, something which the students are familiar with. To make sure that the texts were appropriate for the students' level of English mastery, reading texts selected were modified in terms of difficulty. The modification was not done simply by shortening sentences or omitting difficult words, for such actions does not always reduce the difficulty level of the text. The texts were completed with extra textual support. The extra textual support was in form of pictures which provide information in line with the content of the reading. After a lengthy process of revision and rewriting, the new material was then put into field testing. The students were asked to review the new course book while studying with them. The students were also asked to fill a questionnaire about the material. The data from the questionnaire were the triangulated through observation and interview. The result of the interview is presented in the following chart. The first questions is about this material more interesting than the existing material. So there is 5 indicators here. The first one is strongly agree. The second is agree. The third is neutral. The fourth is disagree. And then the last is strongly disagree. So based on the first questions, there are 77% of the students strongly agree with the material more interesting than existing material. And then 17% agree, 5% neutral, 1% disagree, and then 0% strongly disagree. The second question is, this material is easier to understand than the existing material. So based on this second questions, there are 68% of the students strongly agree, 28% of the students agree, 4% of the students neutral, 0% of the students disagree, and then 0% of the students strongly disagree. And then the third question is, this material is more fun to learn than the existing material. So based on these third questions, there are 72% of the students strongly agree, 23% of the students agree, 4% of the students neutral, 1% of the students disagree, and then 0% of the students strongly disagree. And then the fourth question is, these materials help me learn English better than the existing material. So based on the 4 questions, there are only 2 indicators that choose by the students. The first one is 75% of the students choose strongly agree, and then the rest, 15% of the students choose agree. And then for the neutral, disagree, and then strongly disagree. Each of them have 0% of the students' response. And then the last questions. I prefer to study English using this material than the existing material. So based on these last questions, there are 91% of the students strongly agree, and then 9% of the students agree. And then for the neutral, disagree, and strongly disagree, each of them has 0% point for the students' responses. So, the interview with the students showed that the students loved the fresh and colorful look of the new material, and they also loved the features included in the new course books. The students claimed that the features, colors, language games, and language activities in the material helped them reduce their anxiety and stress level. The above result highlighted two things. The first is that the students' need must be the most vital factor in the developing material. The second is that the students prefer the new material over the existing material due to the culturally familiar material. The familiar material is in line with the students' prior knowledge, thus helping the students in understanding the new material. And then here we are in the last part of the article is conclusion. So based on the article, can be concluded that the incorporate of local culture materials help the students in learning English. The use of cultural materials has decreased the foreign nuance of the material. It reduces the stress level of the students due to the familiarity of the material. The result of the study confirms the notion of that a culturally familiar material will help students in learning a foreign language. So this is the end of my presentation for today. So I hope you guys understand about the material. And then thank you. I would like to say thank you for your attention. And I will close this video with Paramasanti. Om Santi 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 Om.